This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're at the MicroCap Conference 2016 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With me right now is Shawn Singh from VistaGen Therapeutics. It's a publicly traded company with the symbol VTGN. Shawn, welcome to SNNLive.
Hey, Robert. Great to see you today. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's great to see you, too, and thank you for coming on. So for our audience, let's start off with an overview of the company, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. VistaGen's a NASDAQ-listed company. We went up on NASDAQ in May. Clinically focused on central nervous system disorders exclusively, CNS diseases and disorders, with a key focus right now on depression.
So let's go along those lines a little bit. What's some of the history of the company? Where's the science come from?
Sure. Deep science base comes, we acquired this asset many years ago. It was developed originally at the University of Maryland by Dr. Ravi Schwartz and his team there. And we've taken it through some collaborations with NIH all the way from early preclinical now into phase 2 clinical.
So tell me a little bit about the technology. What about the science in your company is different than what's currently out there treating depression?
Yeah, well, for the most part, for the last 50 years or so, we've had really two different neurotransmitters that have been in focus, SSRIs and SNRIs, they're most commonly known as. So serotonin and norepinephrine, those two neurotransmitters have really captured not only the development dollars and patient use, but really every commercial effort that's been out there has been directed towards these two drugs or these two classes. And the challenges with them is they do help millions. There's no question about it. They don't become blockbusters in their own right. All of them, really, for the most part, have achieved that status by helping millions battle their depression. But for many more millions than have been helped, they just aren't adequate. They take a long time to work, 6, 8, 10 weeks in some cases, if they do work. The hit rate's about 1 in 3. So odds aren't that great if you decide you want to enter into a mode where you want to take an antidepressant medicine. You have about a 1 in 3 shot of it working. So the other challenge with them is there's a lot of side effects. So you have to deal with sexual issues and anxiety, insomnia. So you're battling your depression, but you're also battling the side effects that go with the medicine. And sometimes the side effects are worse than the underlying condition, so compliance is often tough. So take a long time to work, don't always work as well as you'd like, and you have to wrestle with the side effects along the way. AV101 is a totally new generation. That's our flagship drug candidate in phase 2 development. Totally new generation antidepressant in that it's got a fundamentally differentiated, fundamentally different what we call mechanism of action, the way that a drug works in the body. So our drug is a prodrug. It's orally available, which is a very important feature for a successful drug in the depression space. It's very challenging to have to regularly get an IV or an injection if you're trying to manage what's often a chronic condition. So AV101 is orally available prodrug, which means you take it orally, it gets up to the blood-brain barrier, which does a really good job typically of keeping out of the brain things that would be harmful. It gets across the blood-brain barrier uniquely, and when it's in the brain, it's converted by enzymes, they're called astrocytes, into its active form. That active form is a very selective, locally, focally delivered agent that has antidepressant properties, as we've seen from some of the preclinical work that we've done and some clinical work that others have done. So it's a really, it's a new generation, and it's a new game-changing hope on the horizon for millions that are struggling with the current medicines. That's how we see it.
Yeah, so you're looking to develop the next generation version of an antidepressant that I'm just assuming you're hoping that will curtail a lot of the side effects that are with standard of care that are currently available.
Well, the limitations that a new generation, meaning a drug with a totally different way of working, that would be the new generation class. They've got to overcome the limitations, at least some of them, ideally all of them. So they've got to work faster, they've got to be safer, and they have to be oral. Honestly, in our opinion, on a long-term basis, a solution that's truly game-changing needs to be an orally formulated compound. So those are our targets, and we think started with some of the work that was done on ketamine and the NMDA receptor, which is a way that drug works. There are other drugs out there that are in IV formulation. Large pharma has bought one of them in particular that shows that this NMDA receptor, which is where our drug acts in the first instance, and then it has some downstream activities in the brain and the AMPA receptors, is a truly fundamentally different mechanism of action. So to be game-changing and deliver that antidepressant effect more rapidly than the current drugs and safer than the current drugs, because there's not, we haven't seen to date, any sort of off-target binding in the brain. Things, places like where opioids or others might lock onto inside the brain that would cause side effects or cause these debilitating side effects. We haven't seen any indications of that yet. So safer, faster acting, and orally available to be used on a chronic basis. Those are the key features and benefits that we see. So.
And then you did talk about the company's currently in phase 2 for this indication. Can you expand upon that a little bit? You're in phase 2. Tell me where you're at.
I was on the buy side for about 8 years before VistaGen, and I always started to really pay attention to a company's value proposition when they get into patients. So it's one thing to be in animals, it's another thing to be in healthy volunteers, all very important. You need to show your drug's going to be safe before it starts entering into an arena where patients are truly battling a very debilitating disease, especially depression. And now that we're in phase 2A, especially under collaboration with Dr. Carlos Zarate at the NIH, who's the chief really the chief depression expert at the NIMH, National Institute of Mental Health, that's where things get really exciting, because now you're starting to see if your drug truly has therapeutic benefit in a patient population. And then you expand that to phase 2B development, where you're now expanding the population to several hundred patients. That starts to get interesting to pharmaceutical companies and others in a market like depression, the global market being billions, north of 10 billion, and probably growing. We have a case in the United States where 1 in 10 over the age of 12 takes an antidepressant today. And again, remember, 1 out of 3 is benefiting. So there's millions that are taking them and not benefiting. It becomes a case where you really need a gorilla on the marketing side. And when you start to generate phase 2B data, even phase 2A data, you start to really capture the interest of those large pharmaceutical companies and even large biotech companies that have been successful in the CNS space. You capture attention. And I think we're at that point right now where we're on the radar, we're in motion, we're in patients, we're working with arguably, I don't know I could put together a better team we could put together a better team than we've got with Dr. Zarate at NIH, Dr. Maurizio Fava from Harvard, Jerry Sanacora from Yale, Dr. Sanjay Mathew from Baylor, Tom Loughran, former director of FDA's Division of Psychiatry. These are the leading clinical and regulatory experts in the space. And to be able to have them on our team, and now quarterbacked by Dr. Mark Smith, who recently joined us from Teva, clinical lead of neuropsychiatry at Teva, we really, I think we're positioned now in a stronger manner than ever, not just on the clinical development side, but also on the financial and the capital market side, so with the new NASDAQ listing.
And what's your background? How did you get into this?
I've been in this space a long time, 25 years, really focused exclusively on the life sciences and healthcare space. Originally started off as a corporate finance lawyer way back in the early 90s, but then moved quickly to small biotech company, and then after several years there, successfully getting it to NASDAQ and broadly accepted, moved to the buy side. I was there 8 years. I also ran a contract research organization as CBO for 8 years, and then VistaGen was a portfolio company of Cato BioVentures, which was the fund I was a managing principal of, and it made very strong sense and very clear signals that it was time to move from that side back to VistaGen to quarterback the company going forward to where we are today. So, companies go through fits and starts, and there's aspects of the life cycle that are more challenging than others. And we're at a point now where we've truly transformed this company over the last 15 months in all aspects, people, programs, finances. So with the new NASDAQ listing and the ability to raise awareness throughout the investment community, at the same time socializing the company across pharmaceutical and CNS-focused biotech companies, it's truly an exciting time for us.
On that note, from what you can tell me, what are some of the goals and milestones for the company for the rest of 2016 going into 2017?
Sure. Absolutely top priority is to get in front of the agency by the end of the quarter, the FDA, and get in a position where we can start our phase 2B study, the adjunctive treatment of major depressive disorder with AV101 on top of standard antidepressants. So trying to, in a similar manner that a drug like Abilify did, and there are other adjunctive treatments that have been commercially very successful and provided tremendous benefit to patients, but doing that without some of the side effects that those other successful adjunctive therapies have brought to the table, that's clearly a goal. So to get in motion for a phase 2B study that brings us within 24 months to a data set with an oral and a new generation oral that has the type of safety profile we expect and the ketamine-like activity that we've seen in the preclinical studies, that's the goal. So getting on a track where we can launch that study in the first quarter and deliver an outcome at the end of less than 24 months now, closer to 20 from the start date, where we have what we know has a substantial and significant place in the CNS arena. Globally with pharma companies, there's prospective partners with VistaGen, but most importantly, delivering a new game-changing treatment alternative to the millions of patients, not just in the U.S., but globally, that wrestle with this absolutely debilitating disorder on a day-to-day basis. So that new hope on the horizon is what's driving us day to day, and we are increasingly encouraged by the players that are coming on our team, inside and externally, and so we're putting all our effort, our expertise, our focus, our resources towards driving to a successful outcome with these clinical studies. We'll see some data from the NIH study, which is fully funded by the National Institute of Mental Health. That's our phase 2A study. That'll be top-line results should be somewhere near the middle of next year. So near-term horizon there. We expect to see some response from the agency on our fast-track designation application. AV101 for major depressive disorder as an adjunctive treatment is really a strong candidate for that designation, which puts us on a different track with the agency as we develop this forward. So a lot of bright spots we see in the future.
And where can our audience go and find more information about the company?
Website's www.vistagen.com.
That's VISTAGEN.com. My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're here at the MicroCap Conference 2016 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With me again is Shawn Singh from VistaGen Therapeutics, publicly traded company with the symbol VTGN. Shawn, thank you so much.
Thanks, Robert. Pleasure.